Batgirl issue 2, Tate BROMBAL writing with Takeshi Miyazawa on the art. So we really liked issue 1 of this book, and issue 2 is more good stuff. It's, it starts off with Cass and Shiva fighting off these blue ninjas.
The unburied.
Yes, the unburied. And making quick work of them to the point where Cass is like, they didn't seem so bad. And Shiva's still trying to convince her to leave. Let's go to the train. And Shiva's been shot during all this, so she's got a wound.
Yep.
And Cass is like, Batman, let's go get Batman. And Shiva's like, no, they will hunt down everyone you care about, including them. Come on, give me one night, and blah, blah. And then we get kind of like a proper, like, more direct introduction to like the main bad guy, the one who's kind of like leading the group of the unburied. And this is the unseen.
The unseen.
Yeah. So he's blind, but he kills a couple of firefighters who are dealing with like the wreckage of what happened last issue. And he kills them and just sort of like tries to see what they saw, to see if he can like track where Cass and that went. So seemingly he has some kind of power where he can kind of like, I don't know if they have to be dead, but he seems to put his hands on their heads and kind of like senses what they saw before they died. So
yeah. So we get introduced. So they're at that temple to Shiva, right?
Yeah.
And it's on fire, and the fire department show up, and I immediately thought of Halloween Kills, right? Because these two firefighters go down, and it ends up being this guy, and he's got the two swords and stuff. And I thought it was going to be a more, him taking all of them out, but it seems like there was a purpose for him killing these two, right? And then you find out that, it is the, seeing what they saw before they go. And it was a really cool introduction to this character.
Yeah, and then a lot of the rest of the issue takes place at like this restaurant that Cass knows, with this lady and her sons that she spent time with. She's been teaching her sons how to like do various martial arts, and this woman who's Vietnamese taught Cass the martial art that she knew. Obviously, Cass knows many at this point, of course, but basically she just drops whatever she's doing to help Cass and patch up Shiva. And the subject of motherhood comes up, and Cass has never mentioned you. Shiva questions like, that she may be unappreciated because of that. Like, maybe I'm not that great because she doesn't bring me up. But the old lady's like, hey, no, like maybe you're unmentioned because the pain is there. Also, is Shiva's real name Sandra? Or is that just an alias they come up with? Okay,
it's Sandra. I learned that last week in the Black Canary book.
Oh, really?
When they give her name.
That's that's right. Yeah, they did bring it up because it's just weird people casually calling her Sandra. I'm like, oh yeah, okay.
No, it's Shiva. That's it. One name. She's like Madonna. I don't care. It's just Shiva. Sometimes lady. Sometimes lady before it, but yeah, most of the time just Shiva.
Yeah. So obviously there's more stuff with like Shiva not liking that Cass doesn't want to abandon the city. Like, why do you care about this city? Like, you're not its protector. Blah blah blah. Like, really laying that on. But once again though, I think it does a really good job using the narration from Cass to like show her reactions to things, whilst very much still feeling like Cassie's voice. There's a moment when the unburied show up with the unseen and have the big fight where Cass notes that Shiva's scared for a second, and that's very notable because Shiva doesn't show fear. But it also does a good job of like, oh, I can't read this bad guy. This unseen guy is just standing still. He's so calm that she can't predict his movements, and it ends up being quite a tough fight. Also, was it just me, or like, so Shiva explains some of the backstory of this unburied and how there were all these monks that had stuff and they get killed and whatnot. But she talks about these blue flowers that gave them like extra abilities, and I'm like, wasn't in Batman Begins, wasn't that a blue flower that they had Bruce like take up to the League of Shadows?
Right, but and they made the hallucinatory, there we go, tea that he takes, right? When it's time for him to pass his final test.
I mean, in that movie, it ended up being part of what Jonathan Crane's Scarecrow toxin was made out of. But I saw ninjas, blue flowers, and I was like, oh.
100%. I thought the same thing.
Yeah,
And I was like, oh, that's cool. I like when they do stuff like that.
Yeah, but so yeah, they wanted more power, right? They gained followers, whatever. Uh, but yes, the earth quaked against the battles and swallowed the monks and their blue flowers whole buried. But of course, that's why they unburied, because they're back, they're up. So yeah, I liked the fight. I liked the idea that like Cass actually struggles with this guy, because one, it shows you how much of a good fighter he is, but that he kind of like hard counters some of like Cassie's intuition, because she can't read him in the way that she normally does a regular fighter. Also,
because he can't be seen, right? That's kind of his gimmick as the unseen. So she can't read what she can't see.
Yeah, I mean, he's not literally invisible though, just to make that clear.
No. But what I mean is, but whatever his fighting style is, right?
I'm just making it clear to the audience, because sometimes, Matt, you phrase things in a way that could be interpreted very differently. So I'm just making it clear.
Gotcha.
Also, just to prove that he is a villain and that we must hate him, he absolutely punches the head off of the old woman. Who her and her sons like help Cass and Shiva fight, and this guy I almost can't believe the panel of like her flying through the air with her head back and his hands like sort of like past her, like he's just punched her in the face.
I know you're not a big fan of Scott Pilgrim versus the World, but this is the scene where Brandon Routh punches knives and knocks the color out of her hair. Same tone.
So yeah, like obviously this pisses Cass off, and Cass wants to punish him, and he basically moves around at super speed, maybe not quite Flash speeds, but it's like he's darting around the room. And you know, Cass is one of the best fighters in the entire like DCU, but she can't necessarily deal with a metahuman. Which is interesting in of itself, because obviously that's something that Batman occasionally has to deal with. It's like, how does Batman fight Croc? How does he fight whatever, Clayface? Eventually, how does he fight an evil version of Superman or Flash or so on and so on? Having Cass have to like sort of figure out how to fight an opponent with physical advantages beyond human is quite interesting. But basically the blow that he's given her has actually harmed her vision for a bit, because she can't see right now at all. I don't even know if it literally harms her vision. I guess you could just kind of read this as he's dazed her, so she can't like process, like, you know, when she says she can't see something, what she means is she can't like look for the movements and predict the next things. So I think it's really just her way of saying that she's been knocked loopy and she's not effective right now, and like Shiva has to actually pick her up and like carry her out of there.
Yeah.
So I don't
know. I do think that, judging by the art on the second to last page with her eyes darkened, I think she's for the moment blinded, right? Because she's talking about, you know, which one, and she needs, you know, Shiva essentially has to carry her out of there because she can't see. At least that's how I read all of these. Yeah. You know, but we do get the fun poetic where at the beginning she says, "I'm no oracle," right? Comparing herself to the first Batgirl to Babs. And then at the end here, she's like, "I'm no oracle. I can't read the cards." You know, so I do like
I don't think it's literally that she's lost her sight. I don't think that's what it's saying at the end, because she's been talking about seeing things the whole time, and it's not about literal vision.
I know, I get that, but I also think that the story, I think where it's going is she's going to have to, you know, her arc through this is going to be learning how to fight without that reading of, you know what I mean, without the reading of the people. You know, and that's going to be her lesson through this, because here with the old lady, right? It's the Vietnamese art of Vo Vie Nam. So of course I looked it up, and Vo Vie Nam is a very defensive style of martial arts, which makes sense when you hear the old lady's backstory of teaching it to people during the Vietnam War to protect themselves, and that was the style that she taught Cass. Whereas Cass's style, right? She's the best fighter. Right? We hear about all the different striking moves, this, that, and the other. Very little about defensive forms, right? So what she had to learn from this lady that wasn't part of her training already was this defensive form, you know? So I feel like here that was part of it, that she had learned this new form from this lady, and now the lesson's going to be, her not having to rely on that power of reading her opponents, going forward, and effectively by blinding her temporarily is how she's going to have to learn.
Okay, I wasn't sure what most of that had to do with the point you were arguing against until the very end.
Well, it just shows back that she's not, right, for being like one of the greatest fighters, right? She can always still learn. And there's always that aspect to her, and her going into that restaurant.
No, that's
not
sure.
just for the food,
I get what you're saying. I'm just none of this has anything to do with is she literally blind or not right now. I just don't think she's literally blind. I think it's more I just don't think she like that. See that final panel where she's looking back? She does not look blind there to me. She looks like she's looking back because she can see things.
Her eyes look so black because her face is covered in that stuff. That was from him.
I mean, maybe. I mean, you could be right. Like, well, like the next issue might start with her being blind, but I didn't read this as literally she is now blinded, and certainly if she is, it didn't seem to me like a permanent thing that she's going to be for like issues upon issues.
Yeah, no, I think that's her journey here now, right? It's one of learning trust with her mom and all of that stuff, but I also think this is going to be her, her arc here is learning not to just rely on that ability that she's honed.
No, I mean, I think that part is right. I think it's going to be about her not relying on the same skills she's always used. I think it's going to be about her getting outside of her comfort zone. I just don't think she has to be literally blind for that to happen. I like genuinely on that last panel, I don't think she looks blind to me. I think she's looking at something. She's looking back at the city. Right? She's saying that she can't read the cards. She's not the oracle. She can't see what's coming. She can only see what's in front of her, kind of thing. But regardless, like Shiva's got her way here at the end because as she's carried Cass away, she's carried her to the train tracks, and they're on the train out of the city. So she's kind of being taken away from her family, from her comfort zone.
Yeah.
And I'm curious to see how she feels about that next issue and what these next steps are. But, they've set up a pretty badass villain here, one that Cass can't easily take on. And I'm curious to see how she defies Shiva's teachings in order to win her way. Because I don't think... I'm sure she'll learn some stuff from Shiva, but I don't think it's going to be as simple as Shiva's right about stuff. I think ultimately Cass is going to prove that she's better than Shiva because her teachings from everything else is going to play a role in what she's going to do. So, and the art once again was fantastic. The fight scenes were really well paced, a lot of speed lines, all that kind of stuff. Especially once you've got this sense of like Cass feeling like she's not keeping up because the enhanced abilities start coming into it. She's taking hits. So I think it really sells the idea of the villain here, and it's taking Cass out of her comfort zone where she is just this badass who can deal with anything. So like I think Cass is a really interesting character to play with. It's very easy to care about her because she is a badass, but she's also very vulnerable emotionally a lot, and it makes it very easy to latch on to her. So I could be wrong, but I feel like more often than not when we debate something like this, we come back in the next issue and I was right.
I've been right in the past. I've been right in the past on things. So I'm going back and looking through the pages. And so I thought that what's on her face, right, was something to do with the unseen. But now I think that's just how this artist is doing blood. Because I'm going back and I'm seeing other aspects of blood. It's never red. It's always black. So now I'm thinking I definitely misinterpreted as that was like an effect that he had by blinding her, right? Because it's on her face and her eyes look dark. But as I go back, even back to the firefighters, everything on them is that same color black. And I just think it's meant to be blood.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Yeah.
But I was taking that was his power was, taking away vision through that way. Right. But Maybe not. We'll see.
Yeah, I think that part is you reading into
My
this
confidence
far too
level
much.
has drastically decreased upon going back and
No,
looking at the art more carefully.
I maintain her saying I cannot see is not literally I am blind. It's that I cannot read what's happening the same way that I normally can. Because that's how the book starts. She reads what people are doing in front of her because she can see it coming based on their actions. And at the end, she can't because she's dazed and she's been basically had the shit kicked out of her. So, yes.
Because I'm looking at the all the other guys, and when there's blood involved, not just dealing with the unseen, they're black flecks, almost like ink flecks. So, yeah. So I interpret that as like not a special power, but that's his thing.
So we're not even waiting until next issue. You're backpedaling right now and giving me the victory.
I'm not backpedaling. I'm saying our conversation made me go back and look at the art more carefully. So yes, yes. But let it just be said, if she is blind in the next issue, I will never shut up about it. So just know. That's
fair. Yes. But if she isn't literally blind, I will never shut up about it.
That's fine.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
I mean, Cass is one of your characters, so if I was wrong about something with Guy Gardner, I would go extra. So I get it.
Also, there's one final page where the unseen basically comes up and like demands to know where Cass and that went. Because like the entire family's on the ground, and like one of the sons is like reaching out for his mother, who I'm not sure if she's dead or if she's just lying there unconscious, but
he does say 3 lives were lost today already. So there were 4 people in that family.
Well, I wasn't sure if he meant them. I thought he meant the 2 firefighters plus
You think that too?
Yeah, well, that's just, I assumed that because I thought that's just he meant everyone that he'd killed that day. But you could be right. It could be, the other 2 sons and her are dead, so it's just this one guy that's left. That said, though, if it's just him that's left, he has no reason to tell him anything.
Right.
Like, well, kill me. You've already killed my whole family. Just put me out of my misery then.
Yeah.
But, yeah, we'll see. So, very good. I think the first issue was so focused and was such a good little window into Cassie's mind. I think this issue did a great job of establishing the villain and the threat, and it felt like a big deal, something that Cass can't easily defeat. So it's setting the pieces up. It's extremely well paced. The art is pretty damn good throughout. Very little to complain about here, Matt. What are you giving Batgirl issue 2?
I'm gonna give this I'll give this an 8.5.
That's a 9 for me.
There you
go. 9. I'm not blinded by its beauty.
You are not unseen.